Welcome to the Kee To Growth Podcast, Home Services Marketing Unlocked, with me, your host, Jen McKee. Every week, I sit down with top marketers in the trades, from the brains behind $100 million companies to those scaling from 1 to 3, even to 10 million, breaking down exactly how they got where they are and uncover the secret to their success. If you're ready to grow your business and get real, actionable insights, you are in the right place. Let's unlock the key to your marketing success, starting now.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Kee To Growth Podcast. Back again with your host, Jen McKee. And today I have Gregg Schonhorn, who I got to meet at the Rilla conference earlier this year. And I was super excited to meet him, and then even more excited to have him on the podcast because he's talking about something that everyone's talking about right now, and it's not AI. So Gregg, if people don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you today?
Sure. Thanks so much, Jen. I'm so happy to be on. It was great meeting you at Rilla, and I was really looking forward to this. So SF&P Advisors has been around for 25 years. So we are way, way, way ahead of the curve. We've done 420 transactions worth $3.5 billion. That is a big old B.
Yeah.
We are not private equity. We are investment bankers. The easiest way I love to explain it, think of me as a real estate agent and your business is a home. It's as simple as I could make it sound, right? So we represent sellers in a long and comprehensive process to help them, whether they're prepping 2 years out to get ready to sell, or heck, they're ready to go today and they've got a dollar amount in mind. But that's who SF&P is. Myself, I spent 23 years on Wall Street running a sales division in fixed income. From then I made a transition through Columbia University where I spent 2 years getting a coaching certification. I got lucky enough to get a job with an amazing man of Mike Disney and Mike Aguilera at CEO Warrior. Shout out to them. You spoke to Sandy yesterday, as we mentioned.
I know, it's so funny.
Spent 3 years working there. And then Fred, who owns SF&P, is actually my college fraternity brother. We're out to night, and him and his wife Grace were like, "Hey, would you make a switch?" I'm like, "Heck yeah." Packed up my 2 dogs, got in my car, and I moved myself from New Jersey to Florida. And here I am, basically 2 years later, representing SF&P, and I love it.
Yes, that is great. And you might be thinking Jen, okay, so why is Gregg on this podcast when I'm trying to learn about marketing? But what I think is really interesting and what I want to talk to Gregg about and is really how much is marketing going to impact your sale? And then even on the other side, I think a lot of people are, they say oh, well, if you're not going to go PE, then you don't have the same marketing budget, but then you can stand out. So there's just so much around this whole thing that I kind of want to talk about. And Gregg's obviously been talking a lot about PE because it's such a huge topic in the industry right now. And he just recently did a webinar with another marketer, Tim Brown, who I've had on the podcast before too. And so I think that this was just a timely topic. I think it's something to think about. And even if you are I will never sell my company, what do they say? There's 3 things to do. You're either exiting, retiring, or dying. And so you got to figure out what the end goal is here. And we don't all need to be afraid of potentially selling. I think it's just good to know what's out there. Okay, Gregg, let's start. How did you get into the trades? I know you said you got into this with your college fraternity, which of course some of us, we just fall into this, but you were already at CEO Warrior. And I don't think I heard how that even was on your radar.
So Fred, who owns SF&P, represented Mike Aguilera in the sale of Gold Medal. Mike then, after he sold Gold Medal, he was already working within and creating. He's a master builder of businesses. He was already started and already working on CEO Warrior, and then he went full-time on that passion project. So they were looking for somebody in sales. That was my background. As I've said before, I know what a Phillips head screwdriver is. I know what a flathead is. That's pretty much about where my skill set on working on stuff is, but I understand how to connect with people. I understand sales are sales at the end of the day. I even do their proprietary den. I watched hundreds and hundreds of hours of calls. I never owned a business, but I talk to business owners about, you name the subject, call by call management, doesn't matter what it is. I literally could talk to an owner about anything because at the end of the day, you touched on this. Every single person listening who owns a business needs to build a business like they're going to sell it.
Oh, no.
To or not. tried and true. There's no reinventing the wheel here, right? Marketing is the engine of your business that drives it. But we talked about this. If you lack operational efficiency, you're just going to burn through leads like crazy. So of the 420 deals that we've done, let's say roughly 410 have been HVAC, plumbing, and electric.
Yeah.
The average is 6.83% spent on marketing. That is the average.
That's such a good thing to know.
Yeah, it's a great little proprietary tidbit. I will say, guys come to me and they'll send their financials in. I'll be like, you're spending 18% on marketing. It's going to hurt your multiple.
Yeah.
It is not helping your business. To me, it means we lack efficiency. We're probably burning through leads. There's some problems within the business that you need to spend 18%. Now, preparing for a slower season and maybe ramping up a little bit, I get that.
Yeah.
When you listen to Dan Antonelli, yourself, Tim, the people that are masters around branding and marketing, it's all about, what was Tim's great line that you quoted?
I do. I feel like I quote it more than Tim. He's like, probably doesn't even remember that he said it, but that you would rather have like 1,000 people see, 100 people see 1,000 of my videos than 1,000,000 people see one of my videos, because over time, that consistency is going to help you stand out.
Right. At the end of the day, that's what marketing really is. It's frequency, it's consistency, and it becomes brand awareness.
Yeah.
It matters if you do want to exit or you're just looking to be uber successful, but you talked a bit about the edgy ads and stuff that are out there, what Wizard of Ads does to a degree, right? It really is impactful in brand awareness. And if you don't think the big PE companies are aware of who the disruptors are in their marketplaces, you have to be, because you're not going to outspend them. Be unique in your approach through TikTok, through Instagram. You've got to be in all the local Facebook groups, right? All the stuff that you're creating around brand awareness, going to home shows, being a servant to your community and giving back. It is all marketing. And at the end of the day, it matters. It will show up in what you could charge, and that rolls to the bottom line.
So I'm so interested in if you can think of like an example, but there are, most companies are doing some form of marketing in their head, regardless of how much they're spending. But so have there been any examples of people who really got more than what their business was worth on paper because of their branding and marketing and the value of their name and the reputation that they had?
Yeah, I'm not going to name names. There's a guy in the West Coast who had 1,000 billboards everywhere. It's in the Anaheim Stadium. Certainly, all of that stuff certainly helped towards his exit. I look at some of the unique people haven't sold yet, and I'm a huge fan. So I ran up to Derek Cormier, Climate Experts. I'm like, oh my God, I love you. Like, just that original content stuff I think is really neat. But yeah, I would say of the people that we've helped exit, the bigger and the best exits, typically the Dan Antonelli stuff. They've got amazing branding on the trucks, really great awareness and color disruption, right? Be a black ball on a sea of yellow.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And it really helps your brand stand out. And it does matter to a lot of the buyers of what the brand awareness is like, because sometimes the buyer won't change who they are or what they are. And if we're a brand and all that, they'll just roll it into something else. But there's a reason they want to keep unique brands. Think about from your world, what was it? Rhino, who we represented, basically got involved. Who was it? Blue Corona. And at the end of the day, they chose to go with Rhino's brand because of all of who they were, and they were
Awareness they had built.
The brand awareness they created made it unique enough. And I think Blue Corona was a bigger company. We didn't represent them in their sale, but we did Rhino. And there's a perfect example of somebody that the brand was so solid and so well aware that in the time they all wind up being Rhino, which is pretty awesome.
I think that is so interesting. I'm also really curious if you can think of an example of the opposite situation where maybe they weren't spending any money in marketing, but their valuation was so high because of other things in their business. Or has that ever happened? But like no marketing, huge valuation. Has that happened? And like, was that what made them better?
So we do run into, it's interesting, somebody books a call with me. What's the first thing I do? I Google the business. I want to know how many reviews they have.
Right.
There's 25 Google reviews. They got that white truck, like with the hot and cold flame thing on them. Like, this is going to be terrible. And they're like, oh, we're doing 9 million. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, there's something wrong here. And then it turns out, oh, well, we do new construction or we're doing commercial. It is rare to truly find a successful 10, 15, $20 million business that isn't doing marketing, that doesn't have the branding. Commercial is completely different, right?
Yeah.
That is very, very different. And why branding and all that matters, it matters less when we take somebody that's doing 100% commercial to market versus residential. But it is once in a while, I'll be like, I can't believe this $7 million business and they've got like 8 Google reviews. And I'm like, I am blown away now. I'm not like, they might not be in a massive community. There's typically an answer and a reason to why.
Yeah. So I think another thing, there's kind of 2 things I want to talk about. One of them is, so if you're getting ready to sell, and we encountered this recently where one of our clients said, we're getting ready to sell, so we want to cut back on everything. And then they were like, wait, maybe not everything. Like, let's keep some of it. But I do feel like that's an interesting concept of like, we're ready to I feel like that's what they were saying. They were going to be acquired, or maybe it was vice versa. They were acquiring a company, but I think they were going to get acquired. And they're like, we're going to cut our entire marketing budget. And is that just like so that they look better on paper? But then you're also, you're not just looking at this month.
So the way SF&P works is we have a 3-phase process. Phase 1 is we're going to spend 3 months building 2 things, your financial data book and your confidential information memorandum. We'll send out a blank teaser, then we're into phase 2. Your job during those 3 months is help us. We're going to build the data book because we want to front load and make sure we get your EBITDA right.
Right.
Phase 2, we're putting fireside chats like this. We're doing a Zoom speed dating, an hour where they get to meet the buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
They go to market and they've shut down marketing and all of a sudden their EBITDA starts falling.
Yeah.
We don't get to do diligence till about, let's call it month 5, maybe month 6.
Mm-hmm.
That means for 4 or 5 months, you shut your marketing down. It means your revenue might be dropping. That means your EBITDA might be dropping. All of a sudden, who's going to buy a falling nut? What appears to be a falling nut.
Yeah, that could be worse.
As a business owner, is just keep running your business like you're not selling, even during the process of when you're selling, because your EBITDA will use an even number of $1 million. Then all of a sudden it's 900 and we're like, okay, we'll make an adjustment. Then it's 700, then it's 500. There's going to be no buyers left. They're like, I don't know what's going on with the business. They stopped marketing.
It looks worse than if they just came in at 500 because it's now lowering.
Yeah, and it harms a business. Now, if we're belt tightening a little bit, we're typically, 12%, we're going to go to 10-ish. Okay. But remember, they're also going to see all your numbers and they're going to be like, why did you back off? You're going to have to be able to explain why for 10 years in a row, you were 12%. And then 6 months before selling, you dropped to 8% or 9%. They're going to ask those questions and wonder why. But a great brand and a great business should eventually fall into that 6 to 8% on marketing. The more they do with your marketing agency, the more they do with you creating more brand awareness within communities, you should be spending a little less and less. It should not be all of a sudden we have to rocket our marketing spend. My favorite phone calls, and I love sharing this. Greg, I need help. I need a referral to a marketing agency. My marketing agency sucks. And I go, awesome. Can I share some advice right before you tell me your story? They're like, yep. And I go, it's you that sucks. Oh,
everyone loves to hear that.
It's you that sucks. What are you doing to hold them accountable? What does it look like? Where are you struggling? How much unsold estimates do you have in Service Titan at this point in time?
Right.
98% of the time, it is the business owner not understanding their P&L and balance sheet, not in their operational inefficiencies, or the marketing agency I hired 1 month ago is not bringing me 1,000 leads. Like, come on, some patience. But are you also, are you in branded trucks and branded clothing? Are you putting yard signs down? Are you hanging door knockers? What else are you doing around it? Are you getting referrals? Are you even asking for referral, right?
Yeah.
Market works to a degree as your engine, but you have all this other work that you need to do around it to be successful. That's why the number 6.83 is really important for you guys to understand that it's not 12%, it's not 13. Typically, the businesses that are spending that, they do not have the best net to the bottom line. There's inefficiencies operationally within their business. They're not getting enough referrals, and they have a ton of unsold estimates sitting in Service Titan. And I'm just like, it's you.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, as business leaders, as leaders, as parents, it's always important for us to look back at ourselves with whatever issues that we're dealing with before we look externally, because we're the ones driving the boat. We're the ones managing the situation. So I love that. And I know it's really hard. And that's not to say that there might be bad people out there or people who are, over delivering and under promising, but we definitely run into situations like that, especially like unsold estimates, which is tough, and not following up with leads, which is hard, and not being relentless with the leads that are coming in. And there's so many things.
The question that you should ask if you're interviewing a marketing agency, first question you ask is, what is your retention rate?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Will tell you everything that you need to know. I guarantee you half of them will lie. It's enough financials because we represent Rhino. There's others that eventually I imagine will sell. First was asked, what's your retention rate? Because it matters.
Yeah, it does.
Friend in common that's well over 90%. There's another one that's 97% retention.
Yeah.
Those are the people that clearly are doing something right, from the help you get, the success management, all of the stuff that you're asking your agency to do. There's a reason some of them are 60%, some of them are 90% plus, which is what a marketing agency should be, is 90% plus retention rate year over year.
Right. So I have a question too about, you're saying this marketing percentage, and I don't want people to get to like, there is no black and white to this, because I think there's something else to consider in time where you're looking to push your growth. In those times that you are spending a little bit more, especially when you're investing in branding, investing in building a new website, investing in, and this can happen at any time in a company. Like, obviously some people try to do it right at the beginning, which is of course really tough because there's probably not a lot of capital to work with. But then, so maybe you're doing it 3 years in or 5 years in, and you're looking back at this year and it's like, wow, I was negative that first quarter because I was investing all this money in hopes, of course, that it comes out positive at the end.
Yeah, Jen, right? Do I go to Dan Antonelli and spend whatever he costs, 30 grand to do a brand? Then I do a website, then a marketing agency, and all of a sudden I look back and I've spent $150,000 and I'm just getting started. Yeah. There is a chicken or the egg of, when do I add? How much do I spend on marketing? I would tell most business owners, grind it. If you're one guy in a truck, grind it out.
Yeah.
You are with a homeowner, ask them, is there other people in the neighborhood? Spend on some of the inexpensive stuff like yard lockers and the basic stuff. You don't need a gazillion leads out of the door because you're going to burn through them and you don't have a brand yet.
Yeah.
You're not creating core values and a vision. Even as one person, you should have a vision of understanding, where do I want to be 3 years down the road? What does my business look like? Who do I want to attract that I'm going to eventually hire? All of this stuff is what your brand is, right?
Yeah.
All the time about, I have my business brand, but I have my personal brand. It is all brand.
Yeah.
Right?
I know it is. I love that. I love what you're saying. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that some people really do try to throw money at their business to grow it from the beginning. And even when I started my business, it's the same as any other business. Like, you have to start with grassroots efforts of just literally meeting people 1 to 1 until you can start meeting them 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, but you have to start with that 1 to 1. And that is hard. It is hard to put yourself out there. It is hard to knock on doors constantly. And when you do it, it doesn't end up taking that long. Like, it's longer to not do it. It will be so much faster and you'll have so much more traction if you start there. And you're right, you don't have to throw all this money at it, and then make strategic decisions. And that's what's tough too about having a business, is like, when is the right time to invest in this thing?
Yeah. And it's, as you get better operationally, you invest more in marketing, right? You invest more in branding. It's really a growth. You look at businesses that are 5-10 million and stuff, and they start to struggle. They start to struggle because they're trying to reinvent the wheel and they stop doing the things that got them to that level. Yeah. Which is right. The 1 to 5, I always say businesses that are 1 to 5 million, the journey is, how well do you know your P&L and balance sheet? How well do you truly know your numbers? The journey 5 to 10, Jen, now we're bringing in general managers. We're bringing in C-suite, the people that really one day will run your business. All of a sudden, your neck completely drops because I have all this overhead. But then you really need to create all of these efficiencies within your business. That's when, all right, we really now can up our budget. We can really start ramping up now. But you should be conservative, and you should never stop doing all of the grassroots marketing that you did early on, because they think like, oh, I'm getting bigger, I'll just throw throw dollars at PPC and SEO, and they stop asking for referrals. They stop doing yard signs. Keep the basics, and that's what keeps your marketing spend in check as your revenue grows.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what are some common mistakes? I feel like you've said them all, but I just want to call them out. Like, common mistakes that you're seeing businesses make that are hindering their growth. And then how can they correct them before they end up selling? Or even, I mean, we say to sell. Of course, it doesn't need to be to sell, but it's all the same goal. Like, you're trying to increase your profits, increase your sales while keeping your business running smoothly.
I think the biggest challenge in our industry is most business owners don't understand a P&L and balance sheet. When you go to certain coaching organizations, they're not focused on. I've mentioned this before, I'll say it again. One of the reasons Nexstar is the gold standard is they are a bottom-up organization. Their beginning focus is on your P&L and balance sheet, helping you understand it and build a budget. And I think too many business owners lack that. And let's face it, 80%, there's no way they graduated college.
Yeah.
Right? But they could certainly turn a wrench. And
Right.
that's the biggest challenge in our business is the lack of education from that financial understanding side. And what do? They go hire a basic, cheap local accountant. Well, it's easiest for them to go cash-based accounting. Every single business that's watching this, that's an HVAC, plumbing, electric, roofing, pest, landscape, I don't care what you do. You should be accrual-based accounting. Everybody. When you take money in matters, so we don't have dips and moves within your business, and it should properly reflect managing your financial. I talk about this on all the podcasts. These generic, industry standard KPIs, Jen, they're great and all, but they don't matter for $1 million business versus a $10 million business. It only matters what your P&L and balance sheet tell you. Now focus on a 2 or 3% improvement across the board. That's how you should grow and scale a business. So the mistake that I get is a lot of times, people always brag about revenue. It's vanity. I get to see under the hood. And then, how many times I've heard, oh, I'm 24%. And then you get the books. You're like, well, you're running this wrong through your business. This goes above the line. This goes below the line. And all of a sudden you're like, you're at 3%. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. Like, of course you didn't, because that's not to.
Right.
Lack of understanding of really being educated on how am I supposed to run money through my business? How do I manage my P&L? How do I manage my balance sheet? I keep saying it on all these podcasts. I think that's one of the biggest struggles in our industry. And when you start approaching that $4 or $5 million mark, you should invest in a fractional CFO.
Yeah.
Say, but somebody that has buy-side experience that understands EBITDA with add-backs as well.
Yeah. I'm going to say something and you might completely cringe at this, but I have started utilizing ChatGPT to help me understand things like my P&L, like literally. And so the other part of this, I'm just going to give this caveat, is that people's question to me a lot, which is probably something I should think about more, is like, I'm putting really, what is the word? Like important data into this AI model, but it's just my P&L. Like it doesn't have my bank account information. I don't know how serious it is, but I do.
It is, I say to people with caution, you can always load up your P&L and balance sheet, put in ChatGPT. But
I know.
run the risk. You are feeding that information of your company, what you do, who you are. It learns because hundreds of other business owners doing it. So
yes, we'll throw that out there. You don't have to do this. But as somebody who is not a financial person, I can completely relate to struggling to understand my P&L. Not like I can't read a line by line item, but truly understanding how much money is coming in and where the money is going every month and how to make a plan based on that.
If it's set up wrong and you put it into ChatGPT wrong, you get bad information out.
If your P&L is not right. Okay, so we're assuming that the P&L is correct.
Assuming it is, you want to run the risk of doing it, knock yourself out. It's a pretty quick way to tell your EBITDA and tell you your net. And frankly, it'll give you a business plan. It'll tell every improvement that you need to make within your business. And most of the time where I'll type in a whole bunch of notes and stuff, you get some pretty good stuff out. One great hack I learned this week, Jen, is so cool. You're going to love this. So on ChatGPT on the app, I didn't know this till last week. You could record your voice. Instead of typing into ChatGPT, you can record your thoughts and all of that, and it will learn how you speak. So when it starts spitting out stuff for you, it will do it more in the way you speak than the way GPT like you see everybody's social media posted like ChatGPT, like
Right. No, it's getting better. I know somebody, and I'm not going to call them out because I'm not going to do it, but somebody has trained their ChatGPT so well that anyone that follows them does not know that it's ChatGPT that's creating their content because they've given it such great info. And like even with our team, so we just did right before this, I had a meeting with my team where we were doing our EOS rocks and we were workshopping them. And so we had to list, like what does done look like and all of these things. And like, I'm pretty sure everybody on the team used ChatGPT, but like it made it so much easier. And so ChatGPT at this point really understands my business. I talk about my business in there all the time. So like my ChatGPT knows it. It knows my marketing plan because I'm giving it my marketing plan. Like it has all this information. And so it's not just like giving me this generic strategy based on what I'm telling it. Like it truly already knows all these things about me. And it like, there's no reason that I need to sit here and type out a bunch of words when it can give me the exact words that I need. So I love it. But my husband uses it to talk to. I never do. I don't have the app. I actually just use it on my computer.
Giving everything in the way that you typically.
Yeah. It is
Right.
such a mirror. Sometimes I get annoyed with it because it's a mirror. It's like me talking back to me. Like I want a little bit more controversy in how it's talking to me to challenge me a little bit, challenge my thinking,
Find that some of the people that come to you and you're talking about, your agency and stuff, and they're like, well, I'll come back to you. And they think that they can go into ChatGPT and recreate or do what you do. Do you run into that at all?
I mean, I have legitimately given out my strategy for people to plug into their ChatGPT and use it. And because my goal is to better this social media presence for the trades in whatever capacity that looks like. So if I can teach you exactly what I'm doing and you can execute it, that's incredible. I love that for you. I know the amount of time that it takes. And right now there's still somebody that needs to execute it. So if you as an owner, and going back to what we said of like grinding at the beginning, there are definitely people who are not ready to hire a social media agency at the level of what we do. There's not a reason for that investment. You need to be, we like to say over 3 million is a good place that we work with, because under that, that's not where your marketing budget needs to go. Your marketing budget needs to go into Google. It needs to go into community events. It needs to go into building your brand. Like there's all these other things. And then once you've done that, then we are a great fit for you. And then even at that, some people have internal social media people, internal marketing teams that want to learn how to do this. And I want them to do it right. I want them to have a great social media presence and get that. So at AHR this year, I gave out a prompt with my strategy in it and told them to load it into ChatGPT and have it help them with their content calendar. Because when we create social media content, it's really about it's about the people, it's about the brand. And so it's not something, it always needs that personal touch. So like there's still a lot that you kind of have to do before it can execute, but I'm like all for it. Like I said, I share the whole thing. I gave it as a prompt, put it in there, use it. Okay. So for businesses that are scaling rapidly, how can they ensure that their marketing strategy remains effective while keeping their operations aligned with their growth goals?
Ask me that one more time. That was fast.
Because we were talking about scaling rapidly. If they're scaling rapidly, how can they ensure their marketing strategy remains effective while keeping their operations aligned?
Yeah, it goes back to the same thing I keep talking about, right? Managing the money in your business and making sure that we're relentless about what is our average ticket? What do we look like with our leads? Are we maintaining a level of marketing, whether it's PPC or SEO, that's commensurate to our growth? If you're spending 8% consistently or 10% consistently and you're growing consistently, you're doing something right. If we said this earlier, if all of a sudden I need 15% marketing, something is broken within your business. So if a $3 million business spends 10%, that's 300 grand. $10 million business will spend 100 grand. That's the value of being a bigger business and having a portion to spend. It makes a big difference. Was my math right there? I hope my math was right there.
I don't know. I'm sorry. But I did ask ChatGPT about my marketing budget based on last year's marketing spend and what my growth was going to be. And it gave me a wide range of money that I could spend. So maybe don't trust ChatGPT on your marketing percentage. I would honestly trust what Gregg's saying because he's looked at a lot of businesses.
They're saying is that matters, and people were like, oh, I hope to do 5 to 8 million next time. We don't have a plan. If you don't have a budget to the penny, then how do you know what your marketing spend should be for the year for the growth that you're looking for?
Yeah. And that is very hard for a non-money person like myself. It is very hard to grasp that concept. If this is what it's going to be, how much do I need to spend to get there?
That's why the great coach or coaching organization that could do it, or a right business, you go get a fractional CFO that will build the budget. And then from there, I know based on their growth projections, what I need my marketing spend to look like as I continue to grow.
Yeah.
Equation.
I love that. Okay. So at the end of every podcast, we ask, this is the Kee to Growth podcast. So for you, what is the key to growth?
I'm going to use an answer that I used on a recording I did earlier today. I will say my life's motto has always been invest in others with a hope someday they invest themselves in you. I think as a business owner, as managers, as critical managers or people in an organization, if you're always investing in other people, understanding their why, what their purpose is, if you're constantly investing in your people, wanting to know their why, they will work their tails off for you and your business will grow and scale properly. Always take care and be of service. Never be about greed. Never be about making money. Be a person that I'm serving my community. I'm serving my employees. Because remember, a business that does 10 million, you might have 100 employees, but between wife, children, aunts, uncles, it could be 1,000 people.
Yeah.
That's what you're impacting as a business owner. So as a business owner, if you have core values and you're living your core values, it's how you grow and scale. Right? Investing in your people, whether that's training, whether that's marketing, figuring out what their best future is. Not everybody wants the same gift. Not everybody's about money. So continue to invest in your community, continue to invest in your people and your business, and the rest will always work out.
That was so great. I think that there was just so many things that people could pull from this episode and implement. And maybe it helped your brain to shift a little bit on how bad it is to think about potentially selling one day, because I think it's really just about keeping our business prepared for that impact of all of the people who work with us, all of the people in our community. So I love that. Before we go, how can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
So Facebook's easiest, Gregg Schonhorn. My cell phone number is really easy, 973-919-5509. You can email me, Gregg at SFP advisors.com. That's Gregg, Gregg, or just go to the website. There'll be a big button that says book a call and you'll book a call with me. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jen, for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was great. Thanks, Gregg.